Well, hello everyone. It is time for yet another weekly edition of Mrs. Deutsch's remote art class. Today we'll be doing a directed drawing of this wonderful group of Easter eggs, chicks, chickens, and roosters. I think this is a perfect activity, whether you celebrate Easter or not. We're all pretty familiar with these symbols of springtime. It's nice, bright, colorful, but most importantly, very simple to draw with some easy instructions, basic shapes, and very simple tools. To create this lesson today, you will need your pencil and eraser, something to outline with, whether you choose washable or permanent, it really doesn't matter. And then you'll need your favorite coloring tools. For today, I chose lots of marker because it's bright and vivid. But you'll see some areas where I actually layered colored pencil and marker to create some different shades. So if you're not like me and you don't hoard 400 different sets of markers and take really good care of them so they don't dry out, and you don't have all these markers available, I will be showing you some little tricks to create different tones with what you have. You can also use colored pencil or crayon. It's not going to affect your final work, much other than it might be a little bit less solid or vibrant. But that said, if you are ready to begin drawing these wonderful, happy, colorful, patterned eggs, chicks, chickens, and roosters with me, get your pencil, your paper, your outliner, and whatever you're going to use to color, and join me at the desk. See you in a moment. Bye. Okay, we are back and ready for yet another art class, remote art class with Mrs. Deutsch. Today we will be doing a directed drawing that's kind of Easter spring themed. We'll be drawing a pattern drawing where we repeat some shapes and lines, and then you'll have a chance to add your own patterns. But basically the image we will be creating is some eggs and some chicks. It's going to start out super simple. All we need to begin is our clean sheet of paper and our pencil with an eraser. So to begin, the entire layout of our picture is going to be done using a curved line that looks like a lowercase n. So I'm going to start at my bottom corner. I want to make them decently big because we want to make sure that we have lots of room to add details on each shape. And then where one ends, the next begins. They don't need to be exactly the same. If we wanted them to be exactly the same, we would use something like a stencil to trace this shape, but it's really not necessary because we're not worried about being perfect. And then this last one is going to go off the page a bit. And that's okay. That's our first row. Now we're going to repeat this again to do a second and even a third row, but we're going to go in between where our last ones went. So we don't want to end in the points. We want to end in the centers of our first row of N shapes. Okay? So I'm going to start, and this one's going to go off the page, and that's okay. But it's going to hit in the middle of my first N shape. And then once again, I'm going to do that right across. They don't have to be perfect. They don't all need to be exactly the same size, but we just want to do our best to keep this shape. And finally, we are going to add a third row, doing the same thing that we did here. We want our arches, our lowercase n's, to hit in kind of the middle of the row before it. And we want them to go pretty close to the top of the page, leaving just a tiny bit of space overhead. And once again, this one will have one that goes right off the page, and that's okay. So this is the entire setup of our picture. If we flip this upside down really quickly, this would be how you would draw scales, like fish scales, mermaid tail scales, or maybe dragon or lizard scales. And we call this a scalloped line because it has curves and it comes to points and goes back and forth, like the edges on a scallop shell. So just really quickly, I wanted to lets you see that. But we're going to use it the opposite way today, where the points or where the arches go upwards. And now what we have is 12 little eggy shapes. Some of these we are going to add patterns to and colors, like they're decorated Easter eggs. And other ones we are going to turn into little chickies and chickens, and maybe even a little rooster thrown in there. So I am going to do these to specific ones. You can either follow exactly along with me and turn the same ones into chickens, or you can choose your own because it doesn't matter what order you place them in. So if I turn this one into a chicken and you want this to be an egg and you want this to be your chicken, that's totally fine. That's one of your rooms where you have, well, that's one of your places where you have room to be creative in this lesson. The same thing when I go to decorate my Easter eggs, the one I'm going to keep eggs. Maybe I want to do polka dots, but you want to do stars. That's fine. You don't have to do the same colors as me. This is a lesson where you have a lot of room for creativity and to put your own little creative touches and twists in this to make it special for you. So whatever I'm doing, just understand, since all of these shapes are so similar, you can place your details however you'd like. So to start out, I am going to use, I am going to use this one, and I'm going to turn this into my first little sleepy chick. We're going to do kinds of different facial expressions and maybe have them facing different ways, just to make this as interesting as we possibly can. So this is going to be the first one that I turn into a little chick. So to do that, the first obvious thing I'm going to need is a beak. So I'm going to do that by drawing an upside down triangle. Just an upside down triangle. And this is, I want this to be a chick that kind of just hatched. So we are going to make them a little sleepy chick. Maybe they haven't even opened their eyes yet. So I'm going to make 2 curvy lines, kind of like a lowercase u, but a little bit wider. And these could be your sleepy eyes, or if you want, we can add some little eyelash lines. That's up to you. Maybe you don't want your chick to have eyelashes. That's fine. And I'm just going to add some little curly hairlines, because when chickies are first born, their feathers tend to be kind of ruffled and crazy. So that's just going to show a little bedhead, so to speak. We've got our first little chick. I want to add now maybe a rooster who's facing sideways, or what we call our profile. And that's where we see the side of our face, the shape of our forehead, the shape of our nose, our lips, our chin, and down. So for a rooster, I think I'm going to put my rooster back here. And I'm going to have him facing this way. So once again, the first thing I have to do is add my beak, because that's what kind of tells us that it's a bird. And this time I'm going to do that with 2 triangle shapes, because I want my rooster to have his beak open. Maybe he's making a little cock-a-doodle-doo noise, or maybe he's saying hello to a friend, but I want him to have an open beak. So I did that with, you can even think of it as an uppercase M shape, right? And then the thing that makes our rooster stand out is kind of that little puff of featheries that he's got on the top of his head. So I'm going to do that with a little scallop line like we used to make our eggs. So I just kind of went up and down with little bumps. And that gives me my little rooster tuft at the top of his head. That tells me it's a rooster. I need to add an eye. So I'm going to do that with a circle. And a circle inside it for the pupil. Now where I place my pupil, my dark circle, is going to tell me where my rooster is looking. So I'm going to have my rooster kind of looking up, because that's when a rooster usually crows, is when they're looking up at the sky, signaling the sunrise. So my rooster's looking up at the sky. Now since my rooster is facing sideways, we would see a wing. So I want to make sure I add a wing shape. I'm going to do that by making a curvy line and then another little bumpy scallop line to show the tips of the feathers. And that's my little crowing rooster guy. I think I want to add another little chickie here, and it's going to be a guy that's kind of cut off. That's okay. We're only going to see a piece of him because he's kind of going off the page. This rooster I'm going to have facing the front again. You know what? I changed my mind. I think I'm going to put another chickie right here because I want to really see my chickies. So this time I'm going to do my beak a little bit different. I'm going to do an upside down or a right side up triangle and then an upside down triangle. And I just want to show you that there's lots of different ways to draw chicks and birds. They don't all have to look exactly the same. And this front facing chickie with its beak, it's going to have his eyes open. So I'm going to do 2 circles. And then I need to add my pupils, my dark circles. And I'm going to put them towards the bottom. Once again, wherever you put your pupils are going to determine where your chickie is looking. So you can feel free to put them other places. And maybe this chickie is a little bit older than this chickie. And it's got a little bit more fluffy feathers. So I'm just going to put a little fluffy scallop feather line on the top of the head. And that just shows us that we got a little bit of feathers there. So I've got my 3 little rooster or chicken guys. Maybe you want to add more than that. Maybe you want to have more chicks than you do eggs. That's fine. You can do it however you want. Like I said, I'm just going to show you the general way that we draw our chickens, our chicks, and our roosters. And then you can decide where you want to put them and how many you want to have. Me personally, I really like the bright, colorful, patterned Easter eggs. So I want to make sure I have lots of Easter eggs in there. But maybe I'll do 1 more chickie. I think I'm going to have this one be a chickie too. And I'm going to have it facing this way, maybe singing a little song. So like I did before, I'm going to do an open beak, excuse me, with a uppercase M shape. I'm going to add my eye, but maybe this chickie's looking straight ahead. So I put my pupil towards where the mouth is. I do want to add my little wingy shape with a curvy line and then a scallop line to show some feathers. And this time I'm going to make my kind of rooster feathers a little more pointy, almost like a little crown. So when it comes to now creating our Easter eggs on the shapes that we have left, we want to use some patterns. And a pattern is a design that we make by repeating lines, shapes, colors, or some combination of those. So we're going to start with some basic patterns that I think most of us already know. For instance, a stripe pattern. And I'm going to do just a simple stripe pattern with straight horizontal lines. Horizontal lines go from side to side. Maybe you want your stripes to be vertical, meaning the lines go up and down. Maybe you want your stripes to be diagonal. Whatever you want to do your stripes, that's fine. But I'm going to create that simple pattern with just some lines that go from side to side. Another simple pattern that we probably know, that I already mentioned, is polka dots. Polka dots is a pattern that we create using dots. The dots can all be the same size, or we can make them different sizes with some small, some medium, and some large dots. Maybe some of them are going around, because we have to remember, even though we're drawing on a flat paper, our shapes can still be three-dimensional. So sometimes you'll have pieces that you can't quite see because they're going around the curve of our egg. But I want to make sure I have lots of little dots in there. So I've got a stripy egg and I've got a polka dot egg. Now you can create other patterns that are similar to polka dots using different shapes. So maybe you want to do a similar pattern, but instead of dots, you want to do squares, or you want to do hearts or stars. And in fact, I love hearts, so I think I am going to add a heart pattern. So just like I did for my polka dots, I'm going to draw a heart, and then I'm just going to repeat that shape. Maybe make some big, maybe make some really tiny. Make some that are going off the page. And some more little tiny guys that have blank space. So I've got a nice heart pattern there. We can also do patterns that are like stripes, but maybe we don't want to use straight lines. Maybe we want to use a curvy line, like a wavy line. So I'm going to do my best to follow my wavy line pattern as much as I can. Just looking at the line above it to help me. Curve up, curve down, curve up, curve down, curve up, curve down, curve up, curve down. I do my best to space it evenly, but I'm just doing that with my eye. I'm not measuring anything. We don't have to make it more difficult than it needs to be. I have to remember my beak's going to go in front of my egg, so I don't want to cover my beak. And I'm just going to make that squiggle line all the way down. So now we have a pattern that's like a stripe, but with a different shaped line. I think I'm going to add another pattern like here. And I think maybe instead of hearts or dots, let's do one with triangles. But I'm going to make it even more different this time, because I'm going to make some triangles that are right side up and some that are upside down. And we're going to do all different triangles on this egg. It's a good chance to practice drawing our shapes. You do not have to be doing exactly what I'm doing. You could do the same pattern but on a different egg, or you could try a different shape, or maybe you don't like this at all and you want to come up with your own patterns. That is totally fine. That's why I love this project so much, because it has a lot of room to make it unique. And then maybe you want to add some eggs that have multiple patterns. So maybe in this one, I'll do a double stripe. And then maybe I'll do a row of little flowers, which I make by making a circle. And then a lowercase n shape all the way around for my petals. Circle, lowercase n shape all the way around for my petals. And then let's repeat our stripe pattern again. So we'll do a double stripe. And then I'll add some more flowers. Circle, lowercase n all around to make the petals. We have to remember that this back row is behind everything else. So if anything, our details are sometimes going to go behind some other things, and that's okay. Let's do our best. I'm going to add my double stripe again. And I think I can fit one more flower right here that we would be able to see. And I'm going to add another double stripe line. So that's a pattern that we made up with stripes and repeating shapes. Okay, over here I'm going to do something similar to this one. I'm going to use a zigzag line, which is where we go up and down like we're going to make a triangle, but we don't finish it. Okay? And then in between that, I am going to do maybe we'll just do some dots. They're nice and simple. And then I'll do my zigzag. Do it again to make that nice little band. And then I'll add some more dots. Zigzag. And again. And some dots. And then you really wouldn't see much of it, but we'll do our little tiny zigzag line there. So now I only have one egg left that I need to put a pattern on. Let me think, what pattern do I want to put here? What do we have? Well, we haven't really done anything with squares. So let's do a little bit maybe of a plaid pattern here. To make a plaid pattern, we're going to do vertical stripes, our up and down lines, okay? Doing our best. If we want to use a ruler to make sure our lines are extra straight, we can do that. I don't think it's necessary, but if you like your stuff extra neat, it's a good idea. And to make the plaid pattern, now I'm going to do horizontal stripes, or my side to side. And you can either make this a plaid pattern by focusing on the lines, or if you focus on the shapes you created, all these little squares and rectangles, this could also be a checkerboard pattern. That's up to you. But look at that. That is our completed drawing of our chicks, chickens, roosters, and eggs with our beautiful patterns on them. And now it is time to add our outline. Okay, due to the length of the completed lesson, I did have to split this into two parts. So that was the drawing portion. In our next video, we will be moving on to outlining and coloring this beautiful happy picture together. Sorry for having to split it up, but really it makes it that much faster to upload and get it to you. So that's why I chose to do that. So I hope to see you in part 2, and we will outline and color together. Thanks again for joining me. This has been Mrs. Deutsch at my remote art class. See you later.